Morning, Dan and Amy. We're coming to you live from Mid-States Glass and Metal in Niles, part of our AM 560 Signature Bank Business Tour. And Amy,
Yes.
I wonder if your church is included in this. Today is Ash Wednesday.
I know. What are you giving up for Lent? Or is that personal?
That's my business.
Oh, wow. You stand down, sister.
Yeah,
That's my business.
No, I'm still contemplating what I don't have.
Or you could do something.
I don't
for
have to make a
somebody.
decision until I get my ashes. But I'm wondering if at the cult that you go to, it will be glitter.
Well, there are churches in Ravenswood that are offering glitter ashes.
There's apparently. So I thought it was to remind us that we to ashes we are from, to ashes we shall return. But apparently it's to glitter we are from, and are from glitter. And to glitter we shall return at the Unity Lutheran Church in Edgewater and the Barry United Methodist Church in Lincoln Square, who are doing a glitter Ash Wednesday. These are the Christian churches that despise Christianity, and so I figured your cult may be in charge, maybe maybe there as well.
Straight ashes, thank you.
Really?
Yeah.
Straight?
Well, excuse me.
Straight ashes? Really?
I just meant
That's
ashes only with sans glitter. Okay.
Tell your high priestess
You've met her before,
that
too.
we don't like cisgendered ashes. Straight ashes? Oh, my God. It says you're going to have to sit in the corner.
Am I going to have to repent a little longer today?
You're not going to be.
That's what you do.
You're not going to be able to participate in the animal sacrifice this weekend. So now we turn our attention back to the Trump address yesterday. Policy, culture, the implications going forward for Donald Trump's legislative agenda, beginning with one of the other high points from his speech. This generated almost as much of a reaction as the moment where he recognized Ryan Owens' widow. This statement by Donald Trump on a certain government takeover of the health insurance market.
Tonight, I am also calling on this Congress to repeal and replace Obamacare.
An energized Republican
They're still clapping.
delegation in the chamber last night. And for more on this, we're pleased to be joined by our friend, a good Catholic, ashes, not glitter, for Congressman Peter Roskam, who joins us now. Peter, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Dan, Amy, how are you?
Good. So on Obamacare.
He's all about business, Congressman.
Well,
I'm good.
Hey, look, we got stuff to do here. No more dilly-dallying.
Let's move the product here.
Obamacare. So Paul Ryan and Donald Trump are saying nice things about each other, which always makes me nervous. And the Republican Study Committee, Mark Meadows, not so thrilled about the draft of the Obamacare replace that was leaked. Where are we in the House Republican caucus with a replacement plan that can be moved post-haste?
So here's where we are. It's in the drafting process right now. It's trying to figure out the current status of getting something through the Senate, like the reconciliation process that got it on Obama's desk before. With replacement is a bigger obligation. So the president laid out last night 5 core themes, essentially. He said, look, we got to deal with pre-existing conditions. You got to be able to purchase your own stuff using tax credit for health savings accounts. You can't have, you got to give governors flexibility to meet the needs. You got to deal with drug costs, and you got to be able to purchase across state lines. So the machinations right now are trying to put all those things together and get as much through the reconciliation process, which avoids a filibuster in the Senate. There's also things that things that Tom Price is going to be doing as the Secretary of Health and Human Services. And then also, at the end of the day, there's going to have to be a part of this that Democrats in the Senate, in particular, who are up for election in states that Trump won, are going to have to embrace in order to get the full replacement through the process. So three stages.
I just want you to make it specific so people understand this. So there's certain things that can be done in reconciliation to start to unwind Obamacare. But when it comes to matters like being able to purchase health insurance plans across state lines and some of the other superstructure of Obamacare, that requires a legislative replacement.
That's right. So reconciliation is only limited to the number. So you can deal with things like tax credit, health savings accounts through reconciliation because that's reconciling two budgets, the House and the Senate budget. So you can put quite a bit on reconciliation. Tom Price, as the Secretary of Health and Human Services, has a lot of control over basically adjusting the dial in the transition. So the president last night, when he was talking, was assuring people that it would be a stable transition. That's where Price comes in. And then finally, these other things in terms of purchasing across state lines and some of these other things that we know are going to create more competition and drive costs down, that has to be done legislatively, and the legislation will still require 60 votes. So the interesting thing is the Democrats who were up in 2018 in the Senate, who are from states that Donald Trump won, they've got a decision to make. Are they going to go with, the candlelight vigil crowd that looked at Obamacare as orthodoxy and they're not willing to revisit anything? Or are they going to say, you know what, things not working, we want to be part of the solution? And it's really an open question right now. And I think Trump's ability to sell and to move things and to persuade people is going to be in full display as he engages the United States Senate. We'll be able to pass these things out of the House. Now, for the first time in 8 years, we've got a president that says, bring it, get it on my desk. And he's going to have to be very, very forceful in moving that through the Senate.
What about tax credits to help the poor buy insurance?
That is a big part of the structure. So the question is, it's one thing to make it a tax deduction. It's another thing to make it a tax credit. Now, here's the thing. You got to be really careful with how you structure these tax credits. There's been a great deal of abuse in the past in terms of fraud for refundable tax credits, which is essentially a direct payment through the tax code. So you got to be careful that they're not subject to fraud. The three of us have talked a lot about fraudulent things in Medicare and so forth in the past. You got to really button down the fraud side, but that gives you more flexibility in trying to empower people to make their own purchasing decisions, as opposed to just like, here's this government-approved plan, like it or lump it.
I want to talk about another topic that Trump covered that will get underreported most certainly, and that's about school choice. Talking about access to quality schools being the civil rights issue of our time, as we so often hear, and because it is. I was at a meeting earlier this week with American Federation for Children, the group that Betsy DeVos used to be the chairman of, and they were talking about a federal tax credit that they think President Trump is going to spend political capital to move, a federal tax credit that would allow blue states, or currently blue states like Illinois, to access resources based on the voluntary donations of and demarcations of taxpayers to create scholarship funds for disadvantaged children, disproportionately minority, to access better schools. And so the question is, particularly with respect to you, because you are the chairman of that oversight subcommittee of Ways and Means, which is inextricably linked to the tax code and tax code provisions. Where does that go? I mean, how much of a priority is school choice and opportunity scholarships? We have them in 25 states at the state level, but doing something at the federal level to provide that kind of support where, for example, in Illinois, ruling class Pauls won't allow real choice for children and families who need it.
So I think there's two things. You ask how much of a priority it is. Number one, the president spoke about it, and he articulated education as the civil rights issue in our time. It was wrapped up in a couple of direct appeals to the African-American community and things that he's doing as it relates to historically black colleges. He started the speech talking about Black History Month. So a lot of these things, while they're not racial issues per se, there is a racial overtone to them. So he made a direct appeal to that community. His appointment of Betsy DeVos and her background in terms of wanting to get to actual, helping students as opposed to, feeding an education infrastructure that has completely failed these children over the years, I think is an indication that he's serious about it. During this campaign, he made a pitch, and he said, look, to the African American community, that he appealed to them for their votes. And he said, what have you got to lose? This approach in the past has led to incredible violence. It's led to underperformance in terms of educational opportunities and economic opportunities. And what do you have to lose? So I think Trump is going to be saying, he wins the expectation game. I think he's serious about trying to be transformational in these things. And his standing by Betsy DeVos, notwithstanding the withering criticism that came her way, which was unfair, I think is a precursor of good things. So I think he's demonstrating a level of commitment that's significant.
Well, where are you and on the issue of a federal tax credit specifically? Because we've got to translate that into policy.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I think the ability to make sure that students and parents are empowered is the only way that you can ultimately transform the system. So if you're born, you know this better than me. If you're born at 3800 West Ogden in Chicago, you're going to Farragut West High School, and the likelihood of your ability to get out of that disposition is pretty low. And it's you shouldn't be limited by geography alone. And this is one way to break it up.
Two quick questions for you. Who did you bring to last night's address? And also, what did you think of... Pardon?
I brought my beautiful wife, Elizabeth.
There you go. That's the woman who sent you a Christmas tree, right?
Oh, Christmas ornament.
A Christmas ornament for your Charlie Brown Christmas tree.
That was my only Christmas ornament that year.
And then what did you think of President Trump's, not performance, but his speech? And do you think this is a new day in America, that we have a new President Trump now?
He had a couple lines. I mean, he delivered the "Make America Great Again" line well. He was funny in terms of kind of chiding the Democrats and pointing to them on what a disaster Obamacare was. But then he said, "Look, my job is not to represent the world. My job is to represent the United States of America." And that's not as quote nativist as it sounds. I think it is something that our allies respect. And it was met with a lot of support. And the House chamber itself, the room itself, is smaller than it appears on television. And so you've got this, kind of an interaction. It looks like a big space. It's actually not. It's much smaller. And the place was packed. I just kind of on a personal note, I tend to get to the State of the Union about an hour before because it's a big hassle to get in and out and a lot of activity. And I thought, I'm easily going to find a seat. It was packed an hour beforehand. And it was, lots of interest all the way around. So I think he came in. I think the expectations on Donald Trump's speech were fairly low, and I think he exceeded the expectations considerably.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. He is Peter Roskam, Congressman from Illinois' 6th Congressional District. Peter, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
And only he can make a date night out of the presidential address.
And I also liked, just Peter's point about President of America, not the world. Uh-huh. I also like he dispatched General Mattis to NATO. Hey, NATO, Mad Dog is coming for our money. Make with the wallets.
Congressman Roskam joined us on our Turnkey.pro answer line.
You've made the switch.